Let's go. Game time. The standard is the standard. That's our motto. That's our creed.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Better Baby Daddy podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, John Latchman.
I am your other co-host, Kelly Burgess.
Yes.
Got to be real specific about that, right?
One of our repeat listeners is waiting for you to mess up because she thinks it's the most hilarious thing. And now she's kind of disappointed.
Gotcha.
that you're not saying it no more. But with that being said, today, gentlemen, we're going to talk about discipline with death. Over the previous 12 episodes, we've come pretty authoritative, pretty direct, or really direct.
Very direct.
We've opened up with almost every episode of the last 12 saying, we're about to kick you in the chest.
Right.
And because of certain things that have occurred in our lives, we're like, okay, is that the best approach? Are we connecting with people with that approach? And some of y'all, yes, but maybe a majority of y'all, not so much. B, you talked about a situation that occurred specifically in your life that really caused you to reflect on your approach and delivering information and delivering a message.
Yeah. And because we're reflective dads, we talk a lot about just some things that are moving in our life. And so had a situation with one of my sons where, something occurred. I felt strongly about it. He didn't necessarily bring everything to me right away. I heard it through, various channels. But when we did talk, I was pretty direct with him. I was a kick in the chest type of dad because I felt that that's what the situation warranted. And that did not land well with him. It might have been the truth. It might have been the context of what needed to be said, but the delivery of it and maybe the timing of it was not good. And it caused a fracture between us for a while, like to a point where he was like, Dad, I hear you, but I'm not really hearing you. And so we never want to be in that position with our kids, if we can help it. And so it just made me, because we're doing this work, reflect on, man, is there another way I could have done that? Is there another way that I could have taken into consideration, what he's dealing with, our backstory, our back history, and maybe had the same message land better had it been delivered either at a different time or with a different, I like to say a different volume. Same song, just a different volume, right? And and then it bled into, I'm trying to invite my son on this journey to look at this thing the way I'm looking at it. And in our podcast, we're trying to invite a bunch of men, similar situation as us, or to a journey with us. And I was thinking, man, if we're trying to get you on this bus with us, maybe the best way is not to say, hey, once you set foot on the bus, we're going to kick you in your freaking chest. Because that's what you need, right? And so it just got us to this point where we reflected on I don't even like to say a pivot, but just a more nuanced.
Maybe like a 45-degree.
Maybe a little slight turn.
Put my hip into the create some space.
There you go. Step back. Right. But I think we're two dudes that are humble enough to know we certainly don't know everything, and wise enough to know when we need to make some corrections. And so that's what this is all about. It started with that initial conversation with my son, and then it bled into what we're doing here.
That's amazing that you are able to reflect at that level and then apply it to what we do here. And it caused me to reflect. And I thought, the version of me 10 years ago, would I be receptive of this message? So I'm 32 years old instead of 42. Probably not that much. 15 years ago? Absolutely not. Who do you think you are telling me about this? I got this. I can figure it out. Just because you made those mistakes don't mean I won't make those mistakes. I would completely not be receptive of that message. So it really caused me to reflect. I'm like, all right, can we deliver the same thing with a different tone, with different verbiage, right? It's like, the destination is the same, but I'm reworking the navigation.
There you go.
And I think that aspect of things, the application of that, not only to the podcast, but to our own lives, because we're not experts at this life thing either, man.
No.
It's like,
we are constantly
check my resume.
Hey, we're constant. I think in this fatherhood thing, you're constantly moving into more uncharted territory. Like
Yeah.
every day,
Yeah.
like once you kind of master, hey, 10 and 7 years old, it's like, yo, wait, there's adolescence, which is a whole jungle, right? And then once you master all that, then it's like, oh, let me just breathe. You know, they're adults now, they're out of college. Then there's parenting with it's not parenting adults, you're kind of a parent of adults in a way, is what it is.
Whoa.
And that's new. And so you're constantly moving into new arenas, but we're trying to say, hey, let's do it in a purposeful way that doesn't damage our kids. That's it.
That's all it is.
And we're on the journey with you. The main thing we want to say is this: if you sense a little shift in our tone, our volume, is because, man, we realize, man, we are just like you on the journey,
Yeah.
and we just want to make it easy for more people to join us on the journey.
That is absolutely it. And the more people that join us, the more of a positive impact that this message has. And it's not that it comes from us. That's not even the important thing. It's just that the message is out there.
Yeah.
And that is ideal for us.
It is. Yeah.
Because that's the purpose of this.
That's
is
it.
to get the message out there.
Yeah. And then we said at the outset, 30 some episodes ago, if we help one dude, I know I felt this way. If I could help one dude avoid some of the drama, some of the lost time that I know I experienced because of bad decisions, bad mindsets, immaturity, unwillingness to listen to people that have been ahead. Man, it's a success. You know, we could care. Certainly you want the followers. We got a platform. You want that, but not at any expense.
Right.
And the message is never going to deviate just to get people to follow. We want you to just be a better dad, because there's just such a reward for you and your kids in that.
There it is, man.
That's it.
All right. You want to jump into talking point one now?
Yes. So, one thing that we know from experience, working with children and working with our own children, is that as a man, you must be emotionally regulated in order to be effective as a human being. And emotional regulation sometimes gets a bad name. It is not softness. It's not you're just a walking mat, because you present this calm approach to things. It really is a strength. And your ability to navigate that, especially if you're in a situation with a split household, is the key. You're going to be stressed. We were talking with a cat last night, and one of the great questions you asked him was, hey, how did you, I can't remember which one of the question, but he talked about the stress of the transitions, the stress of, hey, you had your kids every day, and then now you only got them 4 days a week. The stress of, I'm never, ever going to have a Christmas morning with my kids because of the way the visitation works out. And if you are not emotionally regulated during all those times that you know about and the ones that you don't know are coming, man, it's going to be chaotic. The other reason that it's super important that you regulate is not just for you. And this is coming straight from, and I've been referencing this book the last maybe 3 or 4 episodes, Second Chances by Dr. Judah Wilderstein and Sandra Blakeless, is that you have to be regulated because invariably your kids are not going to be regulated. And there's so many different points along the way where, despite their best efforts to make you as the parent think that they're okay, they're going to be unable to do it because it's so much on their brain. I just want to reference something real quick from page 77 of this book. Actually, 74 says, "4 kids can learn to be good at loving other people when they get older. The children of divorce must peel through layers of feelings associated with their parents' breakup. The ruminations of guilt, if I had been there, if I had tried harder, or maybe they wouldn't have gotten a divorce. There are a constellation of fears that they have." And that term, constellation of fears, is, man, it's like a galaxy of different fears that your kids have that are going to affect their ability to emotionally regulate. Therefore, you as the dad have to do your work and their work for them. And so it is not in anyone, when it's framed like that, it is no way a soft skill. It is essentially important so that you can help your kids navigate your breakup well.
What are some of the things as men and as fathers and as leaders that we can do to help our children navigate that while still working on ourselves?
Yeah.
Is there something that transverses both of those worlds? Or do I have to do myself first and then work on my kids?
No, that's the difficulty of it, El, is that you're doing that work in parallel. But the more you realize that, first of all, it's 2 tracks of work being done, the more you'll value the work you got to do.
So you're John Henry over here and John Henry over here.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it so difficult.
Yeah.
And that's what doesn't get talked about. And I would say, not to get too deep in the woods on technical stuff, it's 2 things, is that what children value is consistency. Can you show up, like literally when you say you're going to show up, and can you be the same version of yourself showing up, the healthy version of yourself showing up? And so for you, it's like, can you show up for yourself? So we talk about the importance of, showing up to mentally care for yourself, showing up to physically care for yourself, showing up with your tribe, these different ways that you're constantly showing up. I think that would be, if I'd say there's one thing, is the consistency of showing up.
Consistency of showing up then allows them to feel safe because they know what's happening next.
They know what's happening next. They're going from a very unpredictable situation.
Yeah.
They don't know what's going to happen, all kind of variables too. Oh, okay. I count on my dad coming at this time and being this way.
Yeah. So if I say, hey, I'll be there at 5 p.m. to pick you up, I better be there at 5 p.m. to pick you up.
They should hear your car rolling in at 4:58.
So it's extremely important that we know 5 p.m. isn't 5 p.m. for everybody.
No.
When I say 5 p.m., it's 5 p.m. It's probably, for me, it's 4:55.
Yeah.
But for some of you, it's 5:05, it's 5:10. So you have to be at times, very nuanced in how you approach specific things.
Yeah.
So, hey, daddy's going to be there between 5 and 5:30. Now we have this window.
Yeah.
It alleviates stress for myself.
Right.
And my child is able to sit back and be like, all right, dad said he'll be here in this window.
Yeah. And
then I keep my word.
And you keep your word. And it's so important. And the cool thing about us is that our kids span a huge age range. But that message hits whether they're 7 or whether they're 31. I'm telling you, fellas, it is important because really, and we talked about this, and I just discovered this, is that you're speaking to a 28 or a 31-year-old, but there's a 7-year-old hurting there someplace that they've never really been able to trust you enough to talk to you about. And so when you're showing up, you're really helping to, in some ways, put a bandage, a little Bactine on that wound that you might have caused to the 7-year-old. And that's the power of the emotional regulation. You can't show up at the 7-year-old that's inside a 31-year-old like I did, or whatever the adult kid age, kicking in the chest because it's a 7 or 8-year-old.
That's it.
That's why it hit.
Yeah.
And it hit me, that and a couple of other stories from my kids hit me, that I'm looking at an adult. I'm trying to speak to the child. And it can't be fussing and yelling. It's got to be calm. Otherwise, that child's going to be like, yo, I'll just go back in my room. And you will never see me. It's powerful.
Man, it is powerful and deep and so real, so authentic,
dude,
man.
And
it allows me to, one of the most beautiful things about this podcast for me is it literally has turned into therapy for me. And I hope it turns into that for y'all as well that listen. It's turned into therapy. It's this release, it's this outlet, but it's also because you're so much further ahead on the journey than me that I get to hear things and be like, oh, now you've given me the foresight to see that obstacle that otherwise I would have ran straight into. Yeah. But you're like, L, after you make that left, hey, there's a hole in the road.
Tree down.
Yeah, tree down. So you might want to keep on going straight for another block.
Yeah. That thing I sent you, I can't remember the term for it, but I sent you a screenshot from the book about what happens to girls 10, 15 years down the road. So this event happens when they're small. They're navigating the post-divorce thing. They look like they're cool.
Yeah.
And then they get into their first serious relationship, and then everything falls apart. You're like, what happened? You were like so good. And I've reflected on that, and I remember seeing that with my daughter, didn't know what was going on. And then this book named it. And so if you can get it 20 years ahead of time and do whatever has to be done to kind of buffer that, dude, it's gold. And it moves to our next point, which is originally in the old version of us, we would have said, children just need your correction.
Not knows that word, but definitely we would say, you got to be disciplined and correct your children at all times.
Right. And so now it's, children don't just need your correction, they need your calm. And I would even say that before correction, there has to be calm, consistency, and connectedness.
Yes.
And that's what I experienced with my son. He's an adult, I'm an adult. I'm like, yo, we both met. But that connection, at least for that area, be able to speak to his life. It wasn't enough connection there, and it certainly wasn't enough calm there, right?
Right.
Consistency might have been there, but those other two were missing, and so the message didn't land, so there's no correction.
Right.
You're going to receive the correction. And so when you're in a situation, particularly it's high stress, or remember, connect with your kid, be calm, and hopefully you built a bank account of consistency with them. And then the correction will take place. Sort of like you're gardening. And if you don't build those three, you're just throwing seeds on concrete, literally. And some of them, the hardier seeds might connect, right? And find a way down underneath the concrete. But as opposed to, hey, I've been consistent. I'm breaking that soil up. I got some connection. I'm adding some amendment to the soil, making that soil, add the nutrients in it. And then
You said added what?
Amendments.
Oh, okay.
An amendment is something you add to the soil to make the seed, stay. And then the calm is, man, I'm watering the seed afterwards. The seed is the correction. But I prepared the soil. I've given the seed what it needs in order to take root. Without that,
good luck.
Good luck. And then what does that do is meant? Man, you ain't listening. You hard head just like it. And then we further wreck it.
Yeah.
So that third point just is a piggyback to the second point. Listen, correction, you got to give correction, but give it with or after connection has been made, consistency has been established, and you are able to emotionally regulate and deliver it in a calm, hopefully non-judgmental way.
Absolutely.
And that is an art.
One of the things we have to realize too, because of our situations, whether you're every other weekend dad, whether you're every other week dad, whether you are even less than that because of the situation that you're currently in, is that we cannot assume connection just because we're the dad. That is a horrible mistake to make. And it's a mistake that's made over and over again. Oh, I haven't seen Johnny for 3 months. We good? I'm his dad. So you jump into things, you're correcting, you're doing all this stuff, but there's no real connection. You have to establish that connection.
Yeah.
And what are some of the things that you have done to reestablish connection?
Yeah, I think just continue to pursue them. I think it might be daily text, or, I got a lot of rascals that I'm chasing down. So one week it might be a more intense focus on one. It might be text and, hey, let's get a FaceTime call in.
Yeah.
And let's get some coffee. It depends on the week, it's a different rotation. And and they're older, so I got to fit into their scheme. We do things around church, so that's kind of a rhythm to that. So you scoop up, 2 or 3, and we all go to church and meet the other 4 or 5. So it's just, hey, I'm going to be here. And the other thing I started doing, this was a couple of years ago, is saying, hey, similar to some other businesses that we run, hey, here's the spring lineup, fellas. Here's the dates, rough calls. I'll take care of this. Hey, fit in where you can get in. No pressure. Love to see you. But here's the next 90 days. And that has really worked wonders and given them a sense of things to anticipate. Yeah. But it's worked, bro. I mean, I lost a lot of time and blew a lot of opportunities. So sometimes I feel like I'm chasing, but it's just, hey, here I am. I love you. I want to be with you. Let's connect.
Yeah. That directly connects to what we're going to talk about next. And that is accountability helps us create that connection, right? As a man and as a father, I have to be accountable for my actions. I have to look human. I have to humble myself. And that allows my children to look at me in a different light, right? It's not always provide, protect, discipline, repeat.
Right.
That's not connection.
Right.
That's not authentic, real connection.
Right.
If you want to have real conversations with your children on a emotional level, because you want to hear what they have to say, you want to hear what they're feeling, it just can't be provide, protect, discipline, repeat over and over again. You can't repeat that cycle consistently. Not saying that cycle is not needed, because it's absolutely needed, but there has to be a time when you are meeting them on their playing field.
Love it.
One of the greatest lessons I ever learned was prior to having children and working in the field that I worked in, prior to the field I work now. I worked with some really challenging youth, and I was just thrown out there. And I'm 22, 23, fresh out of college, right? And they're like, here's some cases for you to handle. And I'm going into the heart of the city, right? And they're like, yo, go pick this kid up, get some information on him so we can help him better, so
Right.
we connect with him better, right? And they're like, no one's been able to reach him. I'm like, bruh, I just came off all-night binger. I'm 22 years old. Like, what you want? Like,
The senses are not quite keen enough for this, right?
but what I realized very early on is if I met them on their playing field, whether it was basketball, chess, whatever it was for them, they would open up and I could connect with them in ways that no one else has ever connected with them. So there are times when you need to humble yourself and not force your children into your world, but dive into their world. So if they're Legos, dive into their Legos. If they're video games, and you've talked about this before, dive into their video games. If they're older and it's walking around the mall, walk around the mall and be present with them while they walk around the mall and go shopping. But you have to build connection. And we cannot, as I said earlier, you cannot assume connection just because you're dad.
Yeah, you can't pay the dad card. I'm your father.
Yeah.
We talked to dude last night, and he was talking about the dudes his mom would meet with, right? And he said, not connected with you because I know you ain't going to be here in 2 weeks.
Right.
And it's like, you ain't going to be consistent.
Yeah. So if the biggest thing for me that I've learned on this journey as we all walk it together is that I have to meet my children at their level, in their universe, at their specific time in their universe with whatever they're doing. And sometimes it's building little clay models. Sometimes it's hearing an idea that they have that they want to build something or go do something and jumping on board with it and being more enthusiastic about it than they are, whether it's real or not sometimes. But that's the job as a man and as a father and as a leader.
Yeah.
So if you can get those, you can build connection.
Right.
And the stronger that connection, the harder the correction can be. Not that you want to lean into like some authoritarian type of correction all the time, but the stronger your connection, the more reserves that you put into the reservoir, the more you can correct, adjust, and realign things in their life, or the more they'll allow you to do.
Yeah. I love what you said. And, you being a athlete and being a coach, you could probably relate to, and I was thinking about this on the way up. This point here is that when you're an athlete and you have a coach that you have a great connection with, they can coach you really hard.
Yeah.
I mean, they know I can make some withdrawals on this kid, but I'm never going to exhaust the account because I've built these connections. And so that accountability becomes easier when the connection's there. Right?
I have an example of that with one of my players here, right? One of my players I've coached for 3 years in basketball. I can come at her almost anywhere. I could call her mother in front of her and tell her exactly what's going on. I can hang up the phone. And she's like, well, coach, it didn't happen exactly like that, but she's receptive because we've built so much of a connection together because I've put in so much work with her. And the same thing that we all should attempt to do with our children, right? If you can build that authentic connection with your children, then you're able to do things that will benefit them long term.
Yeah.
And that's the goal.
That is the goal.
Right?
That's it. That's the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, last point. Real masculinity feels like emotional maturity. That's what real masculinity is. It's emotional maturity. And it's about feeling at a deep level. That's what it's about. Man, our interview last night for the podcast with an amazing dude, he hit us with a one-liner that just really changed my perspective on things. And he said, listen, I'm an emotional dude, but I ain't a soft. He probably put it, I ain't a soft. I can't say that word. You can say that word. Y'all know what I'm about to say. I'm about to say, actually.
Yeah, he said, I'm an emotional dude, but I'm not a sensitive dude.
Yeah.
Is what he said.
Yeah.
Meaning that, hey, I can cry. What was the example he made?
Yeah.
He said, I can cry. And then, I can't remember the flip side example, but yeah, he hit me. And his whole affect is very, man, I'm from the streets. I'm down with the streets. And he was talking about being in situations where he's crying, looking at, I think you referenced his kid sitting on his baby mama's lap and how tender that was. And it spoke to a part of him, even though it's like, I can't be with this lady, but I can respect just how much I want that for my kids.
Yeah.
Even though I might be 10 toes down on, I'm never going to be with her. And so, yeah, that's a maturity.
That is absolute maturity. Like, as men, I'm 100% committed to the fact that we should be controlled monsters. And Jordan B. Peterson says it so eloquently that I'm not going to mess it up, but it's the concept of being a controlled monster. Like, when that beast needs to come out, it should come out. And it should protect, and it should provide, and it should set the standard. But that's not 24/7.
No.
That may be once a week, once a month. Hopefully it's really never, right? Ideally, that beast should never have to come out to protect your children, but it's going to have to. Every other day, every other minute, every other second, who are you? Because you can't be the beast 24/7. Because your children should not have to study your mood to determine if you're safe to be around. Because if your children are doing that, that means they're unsafe all the time.
Yes.
They're walking around your house and you on eggshells.
Yeah.
Emotional regulation as a man is so important. And it's okay to feel. It's okay to cry. And then when you need to, you can punch them out in the face for your child. If that's what's necessary. If that's the step you need to take.
Right.
What are some of the things that you've done in your life that have allowed you to reach the level you have right now? Because you're one of the most emotionally regulated people that walk around this environment that we inhabit. What are some of the things that you've done that allowed you to reach that level? I don't know if that's a high standard or not, but
I don't know if I'm just emotionally disconnected from what's going on. Well, first of all, man, I appreciate the compliment. I think two things in the moment is something I've seen you do, and it's just breathe. Breathe and just take a beat. One thing I say to my kids is be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Doesn't mean you don't get angry. It's just that you just turn that heat up slowly, and then you don't say anything. So you might that's what you might be seeing is me working that verse out in my mind in real life. And then when I'm doing that, I'm usually praying, help me to see the need behind the energy this person has given me. So those two things. And then the third thing is, how would I want to be treated in this situation?
there we go.
I'm not showing up on my best day. We deal with a lot of different individuals, different ages we see them at their worst day,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, how would I want to be treated on my worst day? When I'm not emotionally regulated, what do I need from a person? And it's usually calm and somebody understands you're human and can help you walk it back a little bit. But those three things that help me.
It's difficult.
It's very hard
It's
in the moment.
extremely difficult.
Yeah, it's very hard in the moment. And usually we're in these situations as fathers because there was a time we weren't emotionally regulated with somebody.
Yeah.
Usually it'd be him. Right?
Yeah.
And so it is a learned pattern. And the last thing, we just recently went through some marriage counseling, and one of the techniques that the lady showed us is, hey, when you know you're going to be in a stressful situation, rehearse it in your mind first. Rehearse your response. Rehearse the feelings, and then regulate those feelings, when you're not in it.
Yeah.
But kind of feel a little sample of the feeling.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, try that.
Yeah. That's one of the things that rehearsal process, I believe, is so important and vital to what we do in life. Anytime we know we're going to be in a situation that could be emotionally unregulated or has the potential for that, whether it's coming from their side or our side, where I know I could get heated in this situation, walking through that mentally prior to actually encountering it can do wonders for you. It's just like what a sprinter does, right? Right before they line up. You see, if you study sprinters right before the race, mentally you can see them staring down the track. And some of them might be doing a little bit of this and a little bit of this because they're mentally running the race that they want to run just prior to the race. Basketball players do it all the time too. Like, all right, I know I got the last shot. Here's what I'm going to do. And they're mentally running through what that last shot's going to look like. That mental rehearsal the dividends from that build out. And you may never need it, but at least put in the work.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And you might be the first generation in your family that's using these techniques.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're going in uncharted water, but they work.
Yeah. And man, it's very simple. One of the great concepts that I love to fall back towards is I can't view myself as a hammer. Because if I view myself as a hammer, everything else and everyone else becomes a nail. And what do hammers do to nails? My children, my BM. I'm just smashing everything.
Yeah.
Right. I'm destroying things. You cannot view yourself as a hammer. And it's very easy as a man to fall into that mindset of being a hammer. Right. I'm strong. I'm masculine. I say what needs to be said. I do what needs to be done. I'm a provider. I'm a protector. I do all. You view yourself as a hammer if that is the singularity that's occurring in your brain. And then everyone gets hit with the hammer.
Yeah.
So you got to step back from that. And what we're saying is not to be a provider or not be a protector. You should be those things. And as men, it's a requirement in my mind. But what are the times that I need to step back and be like, listen, I'm not a hammer right now. I need to talk to my children. I need to connect with my children. I need to build with my children. And how do I go about doing that?
Yeah. Yeah, you're a healer in those moments.
Yeah.
And
Ooh, not a hammer, but a
and
healer.
There it is.
Oh,
And it goes back to, you know, all the stuff we talked about. In order to be that way, you got to be a master of emotional regulation. You know, in order to be that way, you have to regulate the volume and the intensity of your message. And all those are learned skills. You don't learn them at 32, right? Just because a 50-year-old told you got to do it. You learn it through a lot of trial and error, and hopefully it catches earlier than later, and it just becomes part of your repertoire as a dad.
Yeah.
And hey, fellas, if you don't catch anything, we're two dudes saying, hey, we tried this in the lab yesterday and had some success.
And we're bringing it to you.
Bringing it to you.
And
here it is.
And it might work for you. It might not.
Yeah, it is.
But we're on this journey with you. We are constantly learning. We are constantly growing, and putting effort into growth.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. We're putting effort into growth and we're experimenting.
We are.
And some of it works great. Some of it doesn't work so well. And sometimes we forget that we're experimenting altogether.
Right. And then sometimes experiments have to run a minute.
Yeah.
You know, they might have to run for 2 or 3 years.
Or 12 episodes.
Or 12 episodes. There you go. But we are committed to getting better at this and committed to being better as dads.
Yeah. The standard is always going to remain the standard in my life. And I know the same holds true for you.
Yeah.
And at the crutch of that is going to always be discipline for me as well.
Yeah.
And a disciplined man suffers less because he prepares more. Hey.
Yeah.
That's it, man.
That is it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Anything else to add?
I think we would put a bow on that, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great therapy session today.
Very, very much, man. I feel like
Zen.
I'm ready to go.
All right, man. Until next time, I'm John.
I'm Kelly.
Peace.